Hey girl, Marissa here. You are listening to the Codependent podcast. As a young woman, you have been raised, reinforced, and rewarded for putting the needs of others above your own. That is for being codependent. Now in your 20s, you're exhausted, exasperated, and enveloped in crap relationships, especially the one you have with yourself. This podcast is to help you undo all that so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. Let's get to it. Hey girl, welcome back. Today, I will be discussing the consequences of codependency. Little recap. First official episode, I described the symptoms and features of dependent personality disorder, which, demonstrated how you and me and everyone we know is codependent or has codependent traits. Then I did the trilogy, talking about ways you have been raised, reinforced, and rewarded to be codependent, to put the needs of others above your own. And today I'm going to talk about how that's turned out, right? All this vying for others' affection, attention, and approval. How's that working for you? How is that working for me? And I'm guessing, like me at 22, 25, 29, you are tapped out, burnt out, having a quarter-life crisis because you're exhausted, exasperated, and enveloped in these unsatisfying relationships with others and especially with yourself, right? Really, when it comes down to it, your relationship with yourself is shit. Today, I'm pulling from Melody Beattie's book, good read for those of you trying to combat your codependency, right? Unlearn your codependency. Her book is Codependent No More, How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Caring for Yourself. Yes, Melody, thank you so much. And I'm going to read a list and provide examples. Let's see what comes up for you, my sweet dear codependent. Melody writes how progressively over time, in the later stages of codependency, we can just say I was in the later stages at 20. Why not? So the long-term consequences, long-term effects, that's what we'll say. The long-term consequences, long-term effects of codependency may include feeling lethargic, feeling depressed, becoming withdrawn and isolated, experiencing a complete loss of daily routine and structure, abusing or neglecting your children and other responsibilities, feeling hopeless, beginning to plan your escape from a relationship you feel trapped in, thinking about suicide, becoming violent. I will add becoming violent with yourself or others, right? I've seen lots of self-harm related to codependency. Becoming seriously, emotionally, mentally, or physically ill, experiencing an eating disorder, overeating or undereating. Talked about that a couple episodes ago. or becoming addicted to alcohol or other drugs? What comes up for you? What stands out to you as I read that list? Right? And Melody even perfectly puts here, the preceding checklist is long, but not all inclusive. Right? Codependents do feel and think many things. You may have different traits, so be mindful of that. And for me, I at times have checked off every single one of these traits. And today I'm going to talk about a time in my life when I really was checking off more than like the majority of them. So back in the summer of 2008, I hit bottom with my codependency. I hit a bottom, hit a couple bottoms. If we were looking at a timeline, like I was a ball, I would like hit bottom, rebound, hit bottom, rebound, hit bottom, rebound. And I just kept going up, thank God. And yeah, summer 2008, I was finishing I was in between my second and third year of college. And let's just go through the list and we'll see how that picture can be painted. So, feeling lethargic. Amen. And because I just love looking up. I have a thing for words, so you guys will learn that about me. I like looking up because I know what they mean, but I don't know what they mean. Lethargic, sluggish, and apathetic. Ooh, apathetic. Yes. So I remember 2008, it was New Year, new Marissa, and I set a weight loss goal, not because I had an eating disorder or body dysmorphia. No, I was codependent and I wanted to win the affection, attention, and approval of others. And I figured if I got down, I think it was 118, if I got down to 118, maybe, just maybe, I would get it. So, start of the year, I was going to spin, a weight training class, boxing, yoga, right? Shrunk down. I don't think the guy that I liked me back, which sucked. And yeah, I remember going on a run, like 118, and I was like, I'm not that much happier down here. Like, damn it. So that summer, right, putting all that pressure on myself to get good grades, lose the weight, be a good friend, be desirable to this man, all the things, all the time, I was exhausted. I had really pumped a lot of codependent energy out, was not successful, and just the pendulum swung. And I didn't work out that summer. I ate a lot, gained a lot of weight, and right, talk about sluggish and lethargic. My roommate had gone home for the summer, so it was just me in this, cute little apartment. And there were fruit flies, even though I wasn't eating a lot of fruit. There were fruit flies because I wasn't taking the trash out for as long as I could. And I had roaches in my apartment because I wasn't washing the dishes. Like I was I was acting like someone else was going to wash them. Like piling them up, someone else will do it, right? Super sluggish. Right? Just this big pendulum, like no cleaning, no working out. Like I didn't have the energy to take the trash out on a regular basis, right? We got these little trash flies. It was gross. It was really gross. And right, someone could look and think, I don't know, Marissa is lazy, which is not true. I was just in the throes of a codependent emotional bottom, and lethargy took over. So, next, depressed. Yes, I was depressed. Obviously, I was depressed. I didn't get the guy. I gained back a bunch of weight, so I thought I was disappointing everybody. Codependence. We tend to fear disappointing people, even random ass people. So I was fearful I was disappointing people, and I felt really down. I remember I cried a lot, but like my classes, I remember one time one of my professors, I was still taking classes over the summer, which was a miracle. And my Spanish professor, I think he misplaced a paper of mine. He didn't lose it. He ended up finding it. But I remember during class, he was like, Marissa, did you turn in that paper? And I was like, what? Yes, I turned in the paper. And he was like, oh my God. And I remember I had a friend in class. And I was like, you saw me turn it in, right? And she's like, yeah, no, you turned it in. But I was falling apart. And I had an exam. It was one of those like 5-page exams. I didn't get to the 5th page before time was up. And I remember I just went to the bathroom and I just lost it. I just fell apart because I didn't finish the last page. Depressed. Homegirl was depressed. Right? Codependence may become withdrawn and isolated. Yes. Right? Here I am basing my whole worth, all of my value on other people attending to, approving of, being affectionate towards moi. And in the throes of it, right, at a bottom, I was not talking to anybody. I didn't go home all summer. I didn't want to see my family. My friends would invite me out and I was busy doing nothing. Roommate wasn't there, so it was great. It was me, myself, and I a lot of the time. Lots of declining invitations. I was in a beautiful beach town, 70 degrees, sun is shining. I was inside. I had no interest in going out. I remember too, I would test people, which is weird. Or I guess I was testing everyone, and I would turn my phone off for an evening or for half a day, right? And I would check it in the morning and ask, does anybody care? Right? Does anybody love me? And people, if they reached out, oh, okay, they did. And if they didn't, oh, see, right? Nobody cares. Yeah, so very withdrawn, very isolated. Codependents experience a complete loss of daily routine and structure. Yep. I woke up whenever, went to bed whenever, ate whenever. I did have class. I don't know how I made it to those classes. I guess my little codependency right? Like if I was hanging off a cliff, there were still a couple fingers hanging on wanting to please my professors, right? Not wanting my parents to worry too much, right? There was something, right? I was still able to hold on this cliff. And yet, right before that time, right, my first and second year, I think I went to bed around the same time, woke up around the same time, went to work out. I had I had some routines, but that summer, nope, no routine. Went to class, ate when I wanted to eat, watched a lot of TV, didn't talk to people, didn't go out. That was the routine. Right? They abuse or neglect their children and other responsibilities. So thankfully, no children, and abuse other responsibilities. I think I had an internship that spring that I was supposed to be doing that summer that I didn't get fired, but my boss left and nobody contacted me to continue. Right? So arguably I was abusing that responsibility because they were paying me and I wasn't doing a lot. And I, again, did not have children, but I was not kind to my twin sister. I don't sense I was that kind to my older sister. I probably wasn't kind to my mom and dad either when we called. I mean, they were like, hey, how's your summer going? Are you going to drive 2.5 hours home to visit? No. And I was actually, I wonder if this was around the same time, but my twin sister, she lost her phone when we were hanging out. I called it. It was next to me, maybe in the couch cushion or something, and I looked at it, and the name was Marissa Bitch. I was like, how come it says Marissa Bitch? Right? Did she need the reminder? And again, like, look at me. I get my attention, affection, and approval from other people. But when I'm burnt out, tapped out, have exceeded my limit in trying to please everybody, and the pendulum swings, I am engaging in behaviors that get me the opposite. And they get me the nickname, right? The contact name, Marissa Bitch. So there's my relationships, abusing, neglecting my sisters. Feeling hopeless. Yep. I didn't know what to do. Right? I lost the weight. I was doing decent in class before that summer. That spring semester I was doing decent. I was there for my friends. I was nice to the barista, the cashier. I made small talk with waiters. I was so nice and accommodating, sacrificing to everybody, and so unhappy, so burnt out. Right? What's a girl to do? What's a codependent dummy to do? I thought that if I do these things and I act this way, everyone will be happy with me, and then I'll be happy with myself. Like, okay, what am I supposed to do? They begin to plan their escape from a relationship they feel trapped in. That's for a later episode. I did not have it that summer. At that time, I wasn't dating anybody or a friend with anybody I was trying to break out of a relationship with. Next episode, another episode. Think about suicide. I was not suicidal. I was ambivalent towards life. And in psychotherapy and psychology, there is, right, if we're on a spectrum where people are suicidal, have a plan, means, intent, and then you have people who love their life, going to live till they're 120 if they can, on the opposite end. I was leaning towards closer to the other side, right? Where no plans, no means, no intent, but waking up like, ugh, another day of this shit, right? And ambivalent. I was ambivalent. I did not care about my health. I didn't care as much about flossing, self-care, right? What I'm putting in my body. Just very ambivalent towards myself and my health. I wasn't going to the doctor, wasn't going to the dentist, none of that. And just living in this all ever present and never ending awful now. Like, ugh. Next, codependence, right, later on, may become violent. I was not violent with myself or others. And yet, like I said earlier, this can be self-harm. It can be other harm. For me, not present in that way. Next, they may become seriously, emotionally, mentally, or physically ill. Right? We talked about depressed. I definitely was feeling depressed. And for me, seriously, emotionally, mentally ill, I was very, very anxious. I was a ball of nerves, lethargic nerves, which I'm looking like this. I'm like squinting because it seems ironic, and yet I was I felt doomed, right? And like, oh, my professor lost the paper. Now I'm going to fail that class. Oh, I didn't get to that page on the exam. Now I'm going to fail that test. And I'm not working out. I'm not taking care of myself. We have cockroaches. I'm going to get in trouble. People are going to be disappointed. I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to forget. I'm going to show up late. Just lots of catastrophizing all the time. And that tended to create a lot of anxiety. And even hearing me, right underneath that, it was a lot of anxiety about disappointing people that I was dependent on for approval, affection, and attention, right? I'm going to be late, so people are going to be disappointed in me. I'm going to sleep in, so people are going to be disappointed in me. I didn't do well on that exam, so my professors are going to be disappointed in me, right? Still, just all in all, my anxiety was focused on other people, right? It wasn't necessarily about my health. It wasn't necessarily about a natural disaster. It wasn't necessarily about other people being hurt. It was really like came down to my relationships with others, my interactions going poorly. And being seen negatively, being seen poorly, being seen as inadequate, incompetent, an idiot, a codependent dummy, etc. Right? So that's that's where I became seriously emotionally, mentally ill. Just a nervous Nelly. Next, experiencing an eating disorder, over or under eating. And the pendulum had swung. So that summer was a lot about overeating. And that's when I hit my top weight, around 155 pounds. And I was just eating my feelings and all the pressure, all the anxiety. I remember I made up stories at the cashier, like with the cashier. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm codependent. I wouldn't say that, but I was basically saying, I'm codependent and I need you to approve of this purchase. And so I would say, like, I'm having friends over, or is this enough for two, or I'm making this meal for this group, as if the cashier cares. And yes, as a codependent, the cashier does care. I've talked about it. Like, I was dependent on the homeless man approving of my donation to his cup. Or if I didn't have anything, I was so sorry. I'm so sorry, homeless man. I'm just a poor college student. Right? But that didn't matter. I needed, like, tag, you're it. So I would make up stories with the cashier. And yeah, definitely ate to cope with my codependency that summer. Right? And relating back to my body and my size and my weight, here I was, what I thought overweight, what I thought unacceptable. And the only way that I could cope with that was to eat more. Right? It's such an irony, and I deal with this with my patients all the time. What we are trying our best to prevent, to avoid, to, what's that word? Is it circumvent? Let me see. Gotta look up another word, you guys. Just a walking. Yeah, find a way around. Circumvent. We end up doing the opposite and getting exactly what we don't want. It's so interesting. It's so fascinating. We'll talk about it more in later episodes. And yes, here I was, overeating, feeling so guilty for disappointing everyone because I'm not meeting your expectations of my body and how small my body should be. And overeating to cope with that, hoping that somehow, some way, I will get back to the body that I know you need me to be while eating. Great. And then lastly, right, codependents may become addicted to alcohol and other drugs. And I went to a party school and I partied a lot. And I'm making this face because I know my first year and second year, I definitely partied a lot. I believe I was isolating more. I was more withdrawn. And yes, I was drinking heavily if and when I did go out. And it was not pretty. I remember being told stories about being carried home because I couldn't walk. I remember blacking out. I remember being told that I blacked out and putting the pieces of my evening together. And yeah, not being very responsible with who I was with, what I was drinking, where I was going. Just, right? I was lethargic about a lot of things, including my safety. I was depressed. I was anxious, hopeless, neglecting my responsibilities, loss of my daily routine. And someone could have looked at me and thought, wow, Marissa is abusing alcohol, right? Wow, Marissa she may have binge eating disorder. Marissa may be having a depressive episode. Marissa must have generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, right? Marissa is lazy, undisciplined, weak, pathetic, stupid, incapable, incompetent, and inadequate. And that's not true. I was in the throes of my codependency. I was 20 years old, and I had been raised, reinforced, and rewarded to put the needs of others above my own. I had been provided messages in my family, at school, with friends, culturally in my society, that I needed to play small. I needed to not take up too much space. I needed to keep quiet, prioritize the needs of others. And if you do what we want you to do, if you meet our expectations, if you win our affection, attention, and approval, you will be happy. You will be happy. And I fell for it, and I fell for it very hard, and I fell down very hard, right? At 20, and then 22, and then 25, and then 29, and we will talk about all those other times. And yeah, I was exhausted. Lethargy, right? Feel lethargic, feel tapped out, feel exhausted, right? Exasperated. I was so frustrated, so irritated, just exasperated, and enveloped in very low quality relationships, right? Marissa bitch in my sister's phone. Like just crying all the time when I talked to my parents, not being honest with them about what was actually going on. Crying with my professors, just like this waterworks. Isolated and withdrawn from my friends. The guys I was hanging out with, I would not have wanted to hang out with me back in 2008. This is what codependency got me. And I'm curious if it's what codependency has also gotten you, right? How are you feeling most of the time? What are you preoccupied with? What are you preoccupied about most of the time? Who are you focusing on the majority of your day? Is it yourself? Or is it how you're perceived by others? Right? Are you attending to your own needs or your boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, mom, dad, friend, sister, brother, boss's needs? How is this whole self-sacrifice, putting the needs of others, doing what you can to get their affection, attention, and approval, how is that working out for you? Right? This is me at 20. And thankfully, because mental health stigma was slightly lower than it was for generations past. Thankfully, because my dad is a therapist, which I can't believe he even waited till I was 20. I should have been in therapy when I was like 10, showing some codependent traits in elementary school. But thankfully, right, mental health stigma wasn't as high. My dad encouraged me, and I was desperate that, right, this whole summer, this shit show of a summer, bled into the fall. And I remember, right, I was crying on the phone with my dad, not able to verbalize that too. Like, I wasn't being honest with my parents, but I also didn't know how to say, I'm in the throes of a codependent breakdown. But yeah, crying, he said, maybe you should talk to someone. And I did, right? I went to therapy for the first time when I was 20. Chief complaint, that's what they typically ask, like, why are you here? And I wasn't conscious of it. So I said, grades. I'm worried about my grades. Depression, anxiety. I have some problems with food. Right? I didn't know. I didn't know. And my hope is, you codependent dummy, you sweet, sweet codependent dummy, that by listening to this podcast, applying what I talk about, bringing this to your own therapy, completing the course, engaging with the community, that I can spare you the pain, agony, and suffering I went through for being such a codependent dummy, right? I can spare you of some of those years, decades of putting the needs of others above your own, so you can stop being such a codependent dummy and shine like a codependent diamond. Yes. Right? I'm not supposed to be here. Given the trajectory of where I was headed at 20, I am not supposed to be hosting this podcast. I am not supposed to weigh 40 pounds less than I did. I'm not supposed to be in a healthy and fulfilling marriage. I'm not supposed to have healthy and reciprocating friendships. I'm not supposed to talk with my sisters in a supportive and caring way. I'm not supposed to be this open and honest because I fear judgment. Right? I'm supposed to be in some job where I'm just really just a martyr. We'll talk about martyrdom in a different episode. But I'm supposed to be going above and beyond. I'm supposed to be heavier than 155. I was like gaining 10 pounds a year on average. I'm supposed to be, if I'm not married to, in a relationship with an alcoholic, we'll talk about that in the dating episode. I'm supposed to be miserable. I'm supposed to be playing small. I'm supposed to not be taking up space. And here I am hosting this podcast, playing big, and taking up a lot of space. So my hope is the same for you, my sweet, sweet codependent dummy. I do. My hope is, my intent is right? That this podcast can be the podcast I wished someone had made when I was 20, right? Maybe I wouldn't have had to have gone through as much throughout my 20s to get to where I am. And while I'm so grateful for the journey and I trust my journey and it brought me here, I sense that you have been introduced to this podcast and to me in your journey when you have been, because you're just not supposed to suffer as long as I did. That's my hope. Right? Look at what Melody Beattie is saying if we don't address this now. So with that, I thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. You can leave a review. Let me know how it's going so far. You can sign up for my free course, Codependummy 101, by visiting www.codependummy.com. You can join the Facebook group, the Codepend Dummy Podcast, where I'll be announcing upcoming episodes, content, lives, etc. And until next time, this is Marissa Esquivel. I am not like a regular podcaster. I am the coolest podcaster. Thank you so much. Hey sis, it's Marissa again. I'm not like a regular podcaster. I'm a cool podcaster, right? Thank you for listening and staying till the end. And know this, if you are feeling unseen, I see you. If you are feeling unheard, I hear you. And if you feel like you don't matter, know that you matter to me. Until next time, be sure to check out codependdummy.com for more info about today's episode, my free course, and other resources. Take care. You're still here? Just kidding. Girl, this is not therapy, and I'm not your therapist, okay? This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regards to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the publisher, or the guests are rendering any legal, clinical, or other professional information. If you want or need a professional, you should find one.